Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle. Join the official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to stay updated and get all the materials on the Telegram. The link to the channel can be found in the description box. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified Supplement, the what, why and how of newspaper reading. Now in today's discussion we shall take up the important news which has appeared in the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 26th December, that is last Sunday of 2021, and also important news which appeared in the explained section of Indian Express. So let's start our discussion from UPSC, Prelims and Mains perspective. And on behalf of Rao's IAS, we wish all the viewers a very happy New Year 2022. Now these are the important news which we shall take up for today's discussion. The timestamp for all these news has been provided in the description box below. So on this note, let's start our today's discussion from our examination perspective. So from the Hindu newspaper, let's take up this news which appeared on page number 8. It says Telangana tops in Rurban mission. And here it mentions about bulk milk chilling unit at Narayana Khed benefited about 3,500 farmers. So the whole idea of Rurban mission is socio-economic development of the rural areas, and it is based on the concept of PURA, that is PURA, which was forwarded by the former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Now PURA stands for providing urban amenities in rural areas. So the whole idea of this Rurban mission is to provide economic amenities along with technological amenities so that the rural areas develop. And here it says that Telangana stood first in the implementation of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban mission, which was launched 4 years ago. So this Rurban mission has been launched 4 years ago in 2016 to stimulate local economic development, enhance basic services and create well-planned clusters. So this whole model of Rurban mission is based on a cluster model. And the news highlights that Tamil Nadu and Gujarat took the second and third positions respectively. So in this news analysis, let's understand about Rurban mission, its aims and objectives, the aspect of cluster-based approach as to how the clusters are identified, and also a report of NITI Aayog which has highlighted certain challenges and also suggested a way forward with respect to implementation of Rurban mission. Now from your examination perspective, this topic mainly becomes important from your mains examination, both under GS paper 3 with respect to economic development and infrastructure, and also under GS paper 2 with respect to the aspect of governance and also social justice regarding welfare schemes for the vulnerable sections, issues relating to development and management of social sector services relating to health, education, human resources, and important aspects of governance. So the main objective of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban mission is to stimulate local economic development so that there is decrease in migration from rural to urban areas, to enhance basic services to be provided in the rural areas, and also create a well-planned urban cluster. So as I have stated that this whole model is based on cluster developmental approach. So the government identifies these clusters for the Rurban mission, especially for such areas which shows increasing sign of urbanization. And these increasing sign of urbanization includes either there is an increase in population density. Now population density refers to population per unit area. For example, population in a given area per square kilometer. Other areas of increasing urbanization includes high levels of non-farm employment, that is such employment which is not related to agriculture, presence of growing economic activities and other socio-economic parameters. So these are some of the criteria for identification of clusters for Rurban mission. So overall a cluster can be said to be geographically contiguous villages. So say number of villages either in a plain or coastal areas or number of villages in a desert or hilly and tribal areas. So the parameters for both plain and coastal areas with respect to their population is different for plain and coastal area as compared to desert, hilly and tribal areas. So for the plain and coastal areas, a population of roughly around 25,000 to 50,000 people is considered as a cluster, and for desert, hilly and tribal areas, a population of mere 5,000 to 15,000 is considered as a cluster. And according to NITI Aayog, cluster of villages generally should be within a single block or tehsil for administrative convenience, and panchayats has been categorized as an important unit for these urban clusters. Now, after understanding about how these clusters are identified, let's also go through the outcome which has been envisaged for the Rurban mission. So, the first outcome envisaged for the Rurban mission is to bridge the rural-urban divide by providing certain important facilities in the rural areas. Now, these important facilities includes technological advancement, economic assistance either by the central government or state government, or also through private investments, and providing facilities and services mainly to stimulate local economic development. Now, stimulating local economic development in the rural areas in different sectors will not only promote local entrepreneurship, but it will also help to reduce poverty in the region and provide employment to more number of people. So, providing employment to more number of people will help to reduce migration to cities in large number. So the second outcome as has been envisaged for the urban mission is to stimulate local economic development, and this can be done by focusing on reducing poverty and also by reducing unemployment in rural areas, as employment can be provided under different components of the urban mission, for which there is a need for technological advancement, economic assistance, and also providing facilities and services. The third mission which has been envisaged for urban mission is to spread development in the region through all these processes and also to attract investment in rural areas. So these four can be said to be the major mission outcome as has been envisaged for the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee urban mission. So the question is that what are the areas for which technological advancement or economic assistance would be needed so that more employment is created in the rural region or such region which is showing increasing instances of urbanization. So on this note, there are various components of urban mission which includes areas such as sanitation, piped water supply, solid and liquid waste management, village street lights electrification, access to village streets and drains, inter-village roads connectivity, public transport, skill development training linked to economic activities, agricultural services processing and allied activities, health, education, digital literacy, citizen service centers, LPG gas connection, environment, employment generation and SHG formation, that is self-help group formation, tourism promotion, sports infrastructure, social infrastructure, rural housing and social welfare. So for all these purposes, there is a need to provide proper training, especially linked to economic activities. So all these 21 components of urban mission has the capacity to provide employment opportunities in the rural areas itself. And for this purpose, a proper training is necessary, and also in that training process, there is a need to develop skills which will also help to promote local entrepreneurship in these different areas. And it is in this regard, the government must also provide necessary infrastructural amenities to ensure the success of urban mission in these important critical areas. Now regarding the funding of urban mission, it is mainly a core centrally sponsored scheme, and this scheme or this mission has two fund streams. The first fund stream is convergence through various central sector schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, state sector schemes or state sponsored schemes or programs along with CSR funds. And this first component comprises 70%. Whereas the second component, which is the critical gap funds, comprises 30% for the funding of urban mission. Now regarding the second component, that is critical gap funds, it says that it provides such funds up to rupees 30 crore per cluster for non-tribal clusters and up to rupees 15 crores per cluster for tribal and hilly state clusters. So these can be said to be the funding pattern for urban mission. Now after understanding about the important aspects of urban mission, let's go through the various challenges as has been highlighted by NITI Aayog in its report. Now the first challenges highlighted by the NITI Aayog is regarding identification of cluster. Now we have already gone through the parameters for identification of clusters. However, there are certain implementation challenges with respect to identifying a particular cluster for urban mission. The second challenge highlighted by the NITI Aayog is regarding mobilization of funds under both stream of the funds, that is under the first stream where the fund is converged through various central sector schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, along with state sector and sponsored schemes, and through critical gap funds. So according to NITI Aayog, mobilization of funds also becomes one of the major challenge. Now the Rurban mission functions on a top-down approach. However, NITI Aayog has suggested a bottoms-up approach, especially for institutional capacity building approach. Now the question is, why has NITI Aayog suggested a bottom-up approach? Because presently in top-down approach, according to NITI Aayog, state, district, clusters, Panchayati Raj institution members or SHG members, they have their say in the entire developmental process with respect to various components of Rurban mission in a decreasing order. So it means that the state government has the largest say in the entire process of Rurban mission development. Respectively, districts have lesser say, clusters have even much lesser say, and the PRI members hardly count with respect to participatory democracy. So there is a lack of social inclusion with respect to capacity building for Rurban mission, and it is here where the NITI Aayog has suggested for a bottom-up approach in order to ensure social inclusion and also improve participative democracy by including members of Panchayati Raj institutions and also self-help group members. Now, the third major challenge highlighted by NITI Aayog is regarding considerable knowledge gap among grassroots implementers of Rurban mission. As NITI Aayog suggests that this poses risk to sustainability of the scheme outcomes or outcomes of the Rurban mission with respect to various components. As according to NITI Aayog, this not only impacts quality of assets which are being created under the Rurban mission, but also limits the impact of infrastructural investment and amenities. And such knowledge gap may also result in lack of optimal utilization of resource, especially with respect to infrastructural investments and amenities. So overall, this may pose a significant risk with respect to the outcomes as has been envisaged under the Rurban mission. So these can be said to be some of the challenges as has been highlighted by NITI Aayog. Now from challenges, let's talk about the various suggestions as has been proposed by NITI Aayog. So the first suggestion proposed by NITI Aayog is regarding the definition of a cluster. So the NITI Aayog has suggested for a new definition or new perspective to define clusters. And here NITI Aayog has suggested that so far clusters has been defined based on the concept of deficit or lack of certain amenities or infrastructure which exist in a particular area. However, NITI Aayog suggests that there is a need to reverse this understanding and rather work on the strength of a particular rural area as opposed to their weakness or their deficit. As this new approach will seek answers to what already exists as opposed to what lacks in a particular rural area. So this is the suggestion with respect to having a new perspective to define clusters based on the strength of a particular rural areas rather than highlighting about the deficit of the area and working on such deficits. As according to NITI Aayog, this intervention or change in perspective for the cluster approach can be designed to build on resources and opportunities that already exist in the rural areas. So by knowing the already existing resource and opportunities under the Rurban missions, various important amenities and infrastructural facilities can be further added. Next, the NITI Aayog has suggested for stronger professional and mentor support at all levels till the level of Panchayati Raj and village, as this professional and strong mentor support will help to provide technical support and also managerial support, especially with respect to implementation of Rurban mission for different components. The fourth suggestion provided by NITI Aayog is to embed gender empowerment, that is women empowerment, and also responsive approaches by including all stakeholders in the development of a region, including the weaker and vulnerable sections. So here NITI Aayog has suggested for social inclusion apart from financial inclusion for Rurban mission. Further, NITI Aayog has suggested that innovative solutions must be found for social and environmental change, especially with respect to adopting green technology and circular economy. Now, circular economy refers to a model of production and consumption which involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, recycling, or even refurbishing the materials and products as long as it is viable. So an example can be using the old products to make new equipments. So the NITI Aayog has suggested for innovative solutions, especially with respect to social and environmental change, regarding adopting green technology and also utilizing circular economy. Now, another very important suggestion made by NITI Aayog is that the Rurban cluster development key themes, that is, these important components of Rurban mission, must be aligned with number one, the Sustainable Development Goals, that is the 17 SDG goals, and number two, the 29 subject which has been provided under 11 schedule to the panchayats under Article 243G of the Indian Constitution. As implementation of Rurban mission can be aligned with that of empowering the Panchayati Raj, especially under Article 243G, in order to ensure economic development and social justice. So, the components of Rurban mission must be aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals and also with the 29 subjects which has been devolved to the Panchayat in order to ensure economic development and social justice in the region. Next, the NITI Aayog has suggested to track investments which has been made in different components of Rurban mission by various public resources, and this can be done by tracking the implementation of the schemes by integrating the concerned databases. So there is a need to track the investment by tracking the implementation of various projects with respect to different components under the Rurban mission. Further, the NITI Aayog has suggested that Rurban mission must become a platform for collaborative innovations and research with various universities and institutions. So this will also provide the students an opportunity to know more about the rural economic development which is taking place through the Rurban mission. And lastly, the NITI Aayog has suggested for productive and proactive participation of private sector to leverage the Rurban clusters. And apart from all these important suggestions of NITI Aayog, it has also suggested to empower the Panchayati Raj institutions at ground level. So these become some of the very important suggestions provided by NITI Aayog to further improve the implementation process for Rurban mission. Now the mission is implemented by the states with the facilitation by the central government under the Ministry of Rural Development. So this topic of Rurban mission becomes very important from our mains and also from the prelims perspective, as questions can be asked both in the mains and prelims. So as a part of your practice question, it says critically examine the functioning and implementation of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban mission in India. Also suggest important measures to ensure improvement in the outcome of the mission. And this question carries 15 marks and needs to be answered within 250 words. So after understanding about the Rurban mission in detail, let's move to the next topic of discussion. The next news to be taken up appears on page number 9. The news highlights that call to give Tai Khamti resistance its due. The Arunachal Deputy Chief Minister has asked central government to recognize battles fought against British in Northeast. So, the Deputy Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh has urged the central government to recognize the Tai Khamti British War of 1839 as the first war against independence rather than the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, as it was the Tai Khamtis who resisted colonization, and this resistance resulted in the death of 18 British soldiers, including their colonel Adam White. Now this news becomes important mainly from your prelims perspective under History of India and Indian National Movement, and in this regard you must know certain basic facts also about the Tai Khamti tribe. Now the Deputy Chief Minister has suggested that this resistance by Tai Khamti, which took place in 1839, should be declared as India's first war of India's independence against the British, and also suggested to include the 4 Anglo-Boer Wars and Wanchu British Wars as part of the struggle in India's national freedom movement, as it also signifies important contribution from the tribes in the northeastern region. Now the 4 Anglo-Boer Wars was fought in the Adi Belt under East Siang, Siang, Upper Siang and Lower Dibang Valley. So if you can see in this particular map of Arunachal Pradesh, this is Upper Siang, this is Dibang Valley, this is Siang, and this place is the Lower Dibang Valley. So these were the areas in which the Adi Boer Wars took place. The news further mentions about a Wancho British War which took place in the Tirap district of Arunachal Pradesh. And in this map, this is the Tirap district of Arunachal Pradesh which borders Myanmar. So again, this news becomes important not only from the perspective of history of India and Indian national movement, but also from the perspective of its location in Arunachal Pradesh. Now regarding the Tai Khamti tribe, this tribe is one of the major tribe of Arunachal Pradesh and inhabits the district of Namsai. If you can see in this particular map, this is the district of Namsai, which is inhabited by the Tai Khamti tribe. Now in their literature, the word Khamti means a land full of gold and Tai means a place. So basically, Tai Khamti means a place full of gold. Now regarding their religious practices, the Tai Khamti community are a very strong believers of Theravada or Hinayana Buddhism, and the community is greatly orthodox and all their socio-cultural activities are religious. Regarding the script, the Tai Khamti tribe is the only tribe in the state of Arunachal Pradesh to have their own script, which is called Tai script or Lik Tai. Now regarding their art and culture, Khamti dance is a dance drama that reflects rich culture of the Buddhist in the territory and unfolds the myths and stories of moral values. And their dance also marks the celebration of Buddhist festivals such as Khamsang, Sangkeng, Potwa, Poilyu Kyong, Kamathan, etc. And in Arunachal Pradesh, the Khamti dance is also known as Kapong. Now the Tai Khamti community are also famous for their weaponry, as armory is said to be a part of their life, and this represents the aura of their skills as warriors. So it says that the weapons include poisoned bamboo spikes or panjis, bow and arrows, spear, sword and shields, and Khamti also have firearms resembling ancient flint muskets and horse pistols. Now the Khamti tribes are settled agriculturists and they practice both jhum and settled agriculture, that is shifting cultivation, and produce food grains, vegetables and also cash crops. Further, there is also divisions in their society based on different classes. So it says that the society is divided into classes, each class signifying a distinct status in the social hierarchy. So there is class division within the community of Tai Khamti. It further says that the chief of the Tai Khamti occupy the highest position, followed by the priest who wield considerable influence over all ranks. So these become some of the important highlights with respect to the Tai Khamti tribe, which is mostly inhabited in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Now based on our discussion, let's take up a question asked by UPSC in the prelims of 2014. The question was, what was or were the object or objects of Queen Victoria's proclamation of 1858? Options were, first, to disclaim any intention to annex Indian states. Second, to place Indian administration under the British Crown. And third, to regulate East India Company's trade with India. Now here the third option becomes incorrect, as the Government of India Act 1858 transferred the power from East India Company to that of the Crown to be exercised by the Secretary of State, whose office was to be in London. Now regarding the first statement, the intention of Government of India Act 1858 was not to annex any Indian states or princely states. Hence, in this regard, the first and second statement becomes correct. So the question is, select the correct answer using the code given below. So here the correct answer becomes 1 and 2 only. So after understanding about the Tai Khamti tribe, let's take up the next article for discussion. The next news to be taken up appears on page number 13 in the science section. It says, study of distant magnetars reveal facets of the exotic star. The short-lived flare recorded by the ISS instrument, that is International Space Station instrument, namely the Atmosphere Space Interactions Monitor instrument, spewed as much energy in a tenth of a second that our sun will radiate in 1 lakh years. So just imagine the amount of energy which was spewed by the Magnetar. So from our examination perspective, you need to know about Magnetars and also about Neutron star. So this news highlights about a recent finding of a Magnetar flare, that is giant magnetic flare, which has been spewed by a Magnetar which is supposed to be 13 million light years away in the direction of NGC 253, which is a prominent galaxy in the Sculpture group of galaxies. So this news highlights about the study of this magnetic flare which has been captured by the scientist. So this news highlights that the observed giant flare lasted approximately 160 milliseconds, and during this time 1039 joules of energy was released. So the magnetic flare released in a tenth of a second was as much as that our sun will radiate in 1 lakh years. So this is where it's important to understand about the magnetars and also the giant flares associated with magnetars. Now, in order to understand about magnetar, we need to understand that what keeps a sun or a star going. Now, there are two forces which are working constantly against each other. One is the force of gravity, which is pulling the entire star at the core, whereas the fuel, which is burning at the core, is providing an outward pressure which overall sustains this balance. So once a star runs out of this fuel at the core, then the gravity wins and the star implodes. So it mentions about collapsing of star. So when a massive star runs out of fuel, it cools off and this causes the pressure to drop. So since the star has run out of its fuel at the core, hence it cannot provide the outward pressure which is necessary to sustain its own gravity. And it is here where gravity wins and the star suddenly collapses. Now, neutron stars are formed when a massive star runs out of fuel and it collapses. And it says that a very central region of the star, that is at the core collapses. And when the core collapses, the magnetic force is so high that it crushes every proton and electron into a neutron. And that is why it is called a neutron stars, as because of the strong magnetic force, the proton and electron are crushed into neutron. Now these magnetars are a part of the family of neutron stars. And the difference between magnetars and neutron stars is basically the difference in the strength of their magnetic field, where the magnetic field of magnetars are around 1,000 times higher than the neutron stars. So it says that magnetars are a type of neutron star which is an incredibly dense object mainly made up of tightly packed neutron, because the star has already collapsed, crushing proton and electron into neutron, and then which forms from the collapsed core of a massive star during a supernova. Now magnetar's magnetic field is 1,000 times stronger than a typical neutron star. Now here we have already seen the difference in terms of energy released in a giant magnetar flare with that of the sun. Now this huge difference of energy is because of a strong magnetic field around the magnetars. So it says that what sets the magnetars apart from other neutron stars is that they also have the most powerful known magnetic fields in the universe. Now let's take an example with respect to that of our Earth. Now it says that the strength of our planet's magnetic field has a value of about 1 Gauss, whereas the magnetars have the magnetic fields of about 1,000,000 billion Gauss. So obviously there is no comparison with that of the Earth and even with that of the Sun. Now generally short gamma ray bursts are associated with two neutron stars merging with each other. However, it is also assumed by the astronomers that few percentage of short gamma ray burst can also be associated with magnetar's giant flares. So it is possible that some of the short gamma ray burst which has been observed by the astronomers can be a part of magnetar's giant flares. Now magnetar's giant flares are caused because of eruptions, which is basically caused due to their instability in their magnetosphere. So it says that eruptions in magnetars are believed to be due to instabilities in the magnetosphere or star quakes produced in their crust, which is a rigid elastic layer about a kilometer thick. And this instability causes waves in the magnetosphere, and interaction between these waves causes dissipation of high volume of energy. So in this regard, the news highlights that magnetars emit violent flares. It is only during a flare that they can be observed, and these flares are so short-lived that it presents a major challenge. Now this is because the observed giant flare, which was observed in April 2020, lasted only for approximately 160 milliseconds, and during this time the flare spewed as much energy which our sun will radiate in about 1 lakh years. Now it further says that magnetars are relatively rare objects, with only about 30 having been spotted within the Milky Way so far. So in this news analysis, you need to know about magnetar and the difference between a neutron star. And this topic becomes important both from your prelims and mains examination under the section of Science and Technology in GS paper 3, and in the prelims question can be asked with respect to the syllabus of general science. With this, let's take up the next article for discussion. Now let's take up the next news appearing on page number 16. Now this news says every third informal worker is now registered on e-Shram portal of Ministry of Labour and Employment. So it says that total enrollment has crossed the 14 crore mark as per the Labour Minister. So you need to know about the e-Shram portal, and this topic becomes important mainly from the perspective of economic and social development. So this news highlights that the Ministry of Labour and Employment has developed e-Shram portal for the benefit of unorganized workers. Now the question is that who are unorganized workers and who can register on this e-Shram portal? So an unorganized worker according to the Ministry of Labour and Employment is any worker who is home-based worker, self-employed worker or a wage worker in the unorganized sector, including a worker in the organized sector who is not a member of ESIC or EPFO, or he is not a government employee, can be called as an unorganized worker. And following is required to be registered on the e-Shram portal. That is the Aadhaar number of the person, mobile number which is linked with Aadhaar, and savings bank account number with IFSC code. So any unorganized worker who comes within this category can register themselves on the e-Shram portal of Ministry of Labour and Employment. Now the question is that why has government started this particular portal, or what can be said to be the objectives which is to be achieved by establishing this portal? The objective of the e-Shram portal are: number 1, creation of a centralized database of all unorganized workers, including construction workers, migrant workers, gig and platform workers, street vendors, domestic workers, agriculture workers, etc. And these workers, their number has to be seeded with Aadhaar. The second objective to establish e-Shram portal is to improve implementation efficiency of the social security services for the unorganized workers. The third objective is the integration of social security schemes which is meant for unorganized workers, which is being administered by Ministry of Labour and Employment, and subsequently which will be run by other ministries as well. The fourth objective is to share information in respect of registered unorganized workers with various stakeholders. Now these stakeholders include ministries, departments, board, agencies, organizations of the central or state governments through APIs for delivery of various social security and welfare schemes being administered by these stakeholders. Now API here stands for Application Programming Interface. The fifth objective is the aspect of portability. So it says portability of social security and welfare benefits, especially to the migrant and construction workers, as during the COVID lockdown, it was the migrant workers and the construction workers which were hit the hardest. And lastly, the objective is to provide a comprehensive database of unorganized workers to the central and state governments in order to tackle any COVID-like crisis in the near future. So these can be said to be the objectives of e-Shram portal. Now the question remains as to who can register on the e-Shram portal. So all the unorganized worker can register on the portal. However, such unorganized worker should be between the age of 16 to 59 years, and he or she should not be a member of EPFO, ESIC or NPS, which are government funded. So it says that unorganized sector comprises such establishment or units which are engaged in the production, sale of goods or services and employs less than 10 workers. Now on registering on the e-Shram portal, a person gets a universal account number or UAN. Now this universal account number is a 12-digit number uniquely assigned to each unorganized worker after registration on the portal, and this is a permanent number, and once assigned it will remain unchanged for the worker's lifetime, something like that of Aadhaar. And the benefits for registering on the portal is that the unorganized worker will get an accidental insurance cover of rupees 2 lakhs under Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana. And in the future, all social security benefits of the unorganized workers will be delivered through this particular portal. And in situations of emergency or in situation of pandemic like COVID-19, the database of unorganized worker will be utilized to provide necessary assistance to the eligible unorganized workers. So these can be said to be some of the important highlights with respect to e-Shram portal and also the benefits for registering on this portal. So this news becomes important mainly from the prelims perspective from the section of economic and social development. So after discussing these 4 news from the Hindu newspaper, let's take up 2 important news which had appeared in the explained section of Indian Express, which was not covered in last week DNS. Now the next news to be taken up appears in the explained section, and it is with respect to Maharashtra Shakti Act, which has approved death penalty for rape. It says, with the passage of the bill, it became second state in India after Andhra Pradesh to approve death penalty for heinous offences of rape and gang rape also. So this news says that the Maharashtra Assembly has made changes to the laws on rape, gang rape, acid attacks, sexual harassment under the Indian Penal Code, and also provisions of protection of children from Sexual Offences Act, as well as changes in relevant provisions of Criminal Procedure Code as well. So the Shakti Act of Maharashtra government has imposed death penalty with respect to rape and gang rape in case the offences is of heinous nature. Now, under the Indian Penal Code, section 376 of IPC, it provides for punishment for rape, where it mentions about not less than 10 years and can be extended to imprisonment for life. That is, the punishment can be extended for more than 10 years up to imprisonment of life, which also means imprisonment for remainder of person's natural life. That is, till the person is alive. Now, there are other provisions under the Indian Penal Code which death as one of the penalty or one of the punishment is also provided. These provisions are section 376A, which provides for punishment for causing death or resulting in persistent vegetative state of a victim. So in such situation, death can also be given by the court. Under section 376DB, which mentions about punishment for gang rape on women under 12 years of age. And further section 376E, which provides for punishment for repeat offenders. So for all these crimes, death has also been provided as one of the punishment apart from life imprisonment. So in this regard, the Shakti Act has enhanced punishment and also fines for offences of sexual violence against women and minors, and has also provided for death penalty, especially with respect to penetrative sexual assault in heinous cases under the provision of Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. Further, the Shakti Act also provides that investigation has to be completed within 1 month of filing of FIR. Now here you must understand that once any crime has been committed, then an FIR is filed in the police station. Now based on this FIR, the police station conducts their inquiry, and after conducting of the inquiry, the police submits their charge sheet. This charge sheet is also presented to the magistrate in a court of law, and based on this charge sheet, the person is either acquitted or again sent back to jail or even released on bail. So in this regard, this Shakti Act says that investigation has to be completed within 1 month of filing of FIR, and this investigation period can be extended only for another 1 month. However, for this purpose, reasons has to be given in writing. Now regarding the conduct of trial in the court, it says the trial must be completed within 30 days on a daily basis from the date of filing of charge sheet, that is from here. So these are some of the amendments which has been provided under the Shakti Act. Further, the Shakti Act also provides for adding of a new section, namely 345E in the Indian Penal Code. So here it says that whoever be a man, woman or a transgender, if they do any act to create a sense of danger, intimidation or fear to a woman by any act including offensive communication by telephone, email, social media or any other digital mode which is lewd in nature or which is defaming or causing disrepute or uses a woman's name, their particulars, photographs, or it violates their privacy or outreach their modesty, such instances will be punished for a maximum period of 2 years, and also a fine will be imposed up to rupees 1 lakhs. Now this provision also includes threat to upload or disseminate any sound or video file including real or fabricated depiction of any part of a woman in any sexual act. Further, the Shakti Amendment Act has also made it mandatory for social media platforms, mobile data companies to share data sought for purpose of investigation in cases of rape, sexual harassment, acid attacks, and also important provisions under the POXO Act. And these social media platforms, mobile companies must share these data or face imprisonment for a maximum of 3 months, or a fine can be imposed up to rupees 25 lakhs. Further, regarding bail in cases of acid attacks, rape and gang rape can only be decided by a sessions court and higher courts, and grant of anticipatory bail, which is given by a sessions court in such instances, has also been prohibited by the Shakti Act. Further, the Shakti Act has also included a provision for punishment between 1 to 3 years and fine up to rupees 1 lakh for any person who makes a false complaint or provides false information against any person solely with the intention to humiliate, extort, threaten, defame or harass, especially in cases of rape, sexual harassment and acid attacks. So these are some of the important highlights with respect to the amendments made through the Shakti Act by Maharashtra government. Now, this topic becomes important mainly from the perspective of GS paper 2 under polity and governance and also social justice. So in this news, you need to know about the important changes which has been made through Maharashtra's Shakti Act. With this, let's take up the last news with respect to Rythu Bandhu scheme. So this news says that Rythu Bandhu, Telangana government's DBT scheme, that is direct benefit transfer scheme for farmers' assistance. Rythu Bandhu is a scheme under which the government extends financial support to land owning farmers at the beginning of the crop season, that is at the beginning of Rabi season or Kharif season, through direct benefit transfer to their bank accounts. And the total funds disbursed under the scheme is set to touch rupees 50,000 crores soon for the Telangana government. So under the Rythu Bandhu scheme, money is directly transferred to the bank accounts. It is a scheme under the Telangana government, and under the scheme, a credit of rupees 5,000 is made per acre per season in the bank account of land owning farmers. So those farmers who do not own land or those farmers who are rent farmers, they do not get the benefit of Rythu Bandhu scheme. Another important aspect is that there is no ceiling limit with respect to number of acres which is held by farmers. So all kind of farmers receive funds under the Rythu Bandhu scheme. So the benefits can be said to be that it helps to take care of the need for initial investments, such as the need for seeds, the needs for pesticides, the need for fertilizers, and also paying the laborers. So through the Rythu Bandhu scheme, all these aspects gets covered for a farmer. It further says that provision of rupees 5,000 per acre per season to every farmers in Telangana helps the farmers to avoid falling into the debt trap. Now, debt trap is a situation where once the farmer take debt, then he or she is unable to pay such debt, and in order to pay the remaining debt, he takes further debt and thereby falls into the vicious circle of debt trap. It further says that Rythu Bandhu scheme enhances productivity and also income of the farmers, as it takes care of the need of the farmers at the time of sowing of crop either in the Rabi or Kharif season. However, landless farmers and tenant farmers who do not own any land does not receive the benefit under the Rythu Bandhu scheme of Telangana government. So there is a need for such support schemes, as there is a lack of access to institutional credit for most of the farmers. And this is also as per the report of RBI, as it says that according to RBI's financial inclusion report, more than 60% of marginal farmers' credit is from informal sources. So this direct benefit transfer helps such farmers to take care of the sowing needs. It further says that it is more effective, that is direct benefit transfer is more effective than the debt waiver, as unlike debt waiver schemes, input support scheme does not hamper the credit culture. Now another important aspect is that it is crop neutral, unlike the minimum support price which is given on certain crops, as MSP mechanism favors cereal crops like rice and wheat over other crops. However, the Rythu Bandhu scheme or such input support scheme is crop neutral, and it is also within the WTO subsidy limit. So it says that income support schemes do not come under the amber box of WTO subsidies and hence do not cross the agreement in agriculture limit. Now, despite the benefits and the need for such a scheme, there are still certain issues and concerns with respect to agricultural input support scheme like Rythu Bandhu and even PM Kisan. So the first concern is regarding insufficient support, as the financial support provided under these schemes are often insufficient to meet the entire input needs or cost of the farmers. The second concern is regarding identification of beneficiary, as this itself becomes a challenge because of lack of proper digitalization and land records. Further, the third concern is regarding tenants and sharecroppers, as they are not covered. So these farmers who are generally poor do not receive benefit or funds from the government. The fourth point is inefficient disbursement. Now the problem here is that banks, what they do, they often adjust these deposits against a farmer's past liabilities. So the benefit received under the Rythu Bandhu or any other support schemes get erased because of their past liabilities in the bank accounts. The fifth concern is inefficient use of inputs, especially with respect to fertilizers and water. And this inefficient use of inputs, especially fertilizers, water, pesticides, etc., increases the input cost and render these input support scheme by the government ineffective in helping the farmer reducing the input cost burden. Further, it also results in misuse of the input money, as often money credited as part of direct benefit transfer is not used for the intended purpose or for the intended objective. Now, one of the example highlighted here is use of such money for alcohol consumption by the farmers. And the seventh concern highlighted is that these agricultural input support scheme is not a permanent solution, as input through direct benefit transfer is not going to address the fundamental issues which are responsible for farming crisis in India. So, as a way forward, there are few suggestions which should be implemented. The first is digitalization of land records in order to identify beneficiaries properly and avoid exclusion errors. Second, to implement the Model Tenancy Act, because tenancy in India is still informal in nature, and because of this it leaves number of farmers who do not own land. So implementation of Model Tenancy Act will help in addressing especially the challenge of land tenancy in India, and this will also benefit such farmers who do not own land. Third, input or help should be provided in kind and not in cash, so that the misuse of money for the intended purpose can be avoided or prevented. Further, the input support should be supplemented by improvement in agricultural infrastructure. So agricultural infrastructure must be improved, and this can be done by undertaking marketing reforms and also providing agricultural insurance to every farm. And lastly, improve input use efficiency through micro irrigation technologies, neem coating of urea, etc., to reduce input cost. So these can be said to be as a way forward, as provision of agricultural input support scheme cannot be a permanent solution. Thus, this topic becomes important mainly from the perspective of Indian economy under GS paper 3 and also with respect to Indian agriculture. With this, let's take up the question for the day. Now, based on our discussion, this becomes your practice question for the day. The question is, with reference to e-Shram portal, consider the following statements. First, this portal would create a national database of all the organized and unorganized workers. And second, this portal has been developed by the Ministry of Finance. So the question is, which of the statements given above are correct? Options are A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, both 1 and 2, and D, neither 1 nor 2. Now coming to the answer of yesterday, the question was, consider the following statements regarding the powers of Election Commission of India. First, ECI, that is Election Commission of India, can interpret the provision of elections under Article 83. No, Election Commission of India does not have the power to interpret provision of elections under Article 83, as it provides for automatic dissolution of Lok Sabha after 5 years and can only be extended in case of proclamation of emergency. The second statement says that Election Commission has the final authority to decide the matter of holding simultaneous elections in India. No, this is also incorrect, as it will be ultimately decided by the Parliament on a collective decision making by all the political parties. So here the question was, select the correct option using the code given below. So the correct answer becomes D, that is neither 1 nor 2. So with this, we come to an end to the discussion of today's analysis. Thank you for watching DNS Supplement.